Hello and welcome to Access Asia. I'm William Hildebrandt. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Narendra Modi goes from being banned to being embraced. The U.S. rolling out the red carpet for India's leader despite criticism over his government's track record on human rights. Meanwhile, the world's most populous country subject to the world's most frequent internet shutdowns. We'll take a look at why India has so many internet blackouts and how it affects daily life. And you don't have to be an influencer to get paid to travel. Visitors to Taiwan had the chance to win 150 euros, the island trying to boost tourism to pre-pandemic levels. Once India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi was denied a visa to enter the U.S. over human rights grounds, effectively banning him from the country for a decade. But earlier this month, the red carpet was rolled out for India's most powerful leader in decades. How the geopolitical headwinds have shifted. The U.S. is in open conflict with Russia and has had poor relations with China. So India, which recently became the world's most populous country, has appeared increasingly attractive. Here's Modi addressing a joint session of the U.S. Congress.
We stand at a new dawn in our relationship that will not only shape the destiny of our two nations, but also that of the world.
Well, Leela Jacinto joins me from our international desk. Hello to you. Leela, what were your takeaways of Modi's visit to the U.S.?
Well, what was on display was foreign policy as a transactional policy. What was not on display or not mentioned explicitly was China and India and the U.S.'s joint interest in containing China. And the message was very much the world is a better place if India and the U.S. are friends, and India's time has come. And of course, India's time has come in the sense that, as Modi kept repeating, this is a giant economy. It's the fifth largest economy of the world, and India is the most populous country right now. Huge markets, so multi-million-dollar deals were expected. Multi-million-dollar deals were signed, primarily in the field of information technology, chip making, semiconductors, in a bid to wean India away from dependence on China. There was also a defense deal, which was an interesting first, because there was a deal between General Electric and the Indian state-owned aeronautical company, where for the first time the deal involved a transfer of technology and manufacturing in India. This addresses the fact that India has always been in sort of Moscow's camp and is dependent on Russian arms. Russian deals provide technology transfer and manufacturing in India, while the U.S. typically just sells off-the-shelf arms deals. So that was a substantial takeaway from the entire thing. And another interesting takeaway was the quote-unquote press conference.
Yes.
Right? So Prime Minister Narendra Modi has not had a single press conference since he was elected into office in 2014. And if he does any media events, they are very heavily scripted and managed. So there was much talk about a likely press conference at the White House after the bilateral meeting was held. In the end, there was a quote-unquote press conference, but it was a very choreographed affair. There was just two questions taken, one from a U.S. media group and one from the Indian media group. And interestingly, for the U.S. media question, Narendra Modi was asked about his administration's human rights track record. Because right through this visit, human rights was the sort of background music to a tune that both these leaders did not want to sing. But it did come up in the end.
Yeah, and tell us more about how it came up. I mean, Joe Biden trying to focus on the common ground between the U.S. and India, the two biggest democracies in the world, and sort of skirting around the issue.
Very much. Doing his utmost so that this issue did not come up publicly, although he said this was discussed privately. So at the press conference, the question that was posed to Modi was pretty specific. It mentioned that his government has discriminated against religious minorities and silences critics. And the question was, what steps are you and your government willing to take to improve the rights of Muslims and other minorities and uphold free speech? Modi's reply was very simple. He categorically denied it, and he said, his words were, India is a democracy, And if there are no human rights, there is no democracy. So sort of ignoring the increasing body of academic work which is being done on what experts call illiberal democracy, electoral autocracy, even electoral dictatorship, which is what we are seeing in countries like India, Turkey, Hungary, where the institutions of democracy are undermined. Another very interesting thing on human rights, which was also a first, was the Indian diaspora. This is a very powerful diaspora, and it includes Vice President Kamala Harris, whose mother is an Indian immigrant. For the first time, they staged protest events, to protest Modi's government's Hindu nationalist policies, because the Modi administration, what they have been doing in 2 terms is they visualize India as a Hindu state, which is against the Indian constitution. And so minorities live at the well-being of the majority community. So there were events and protests organized, and also among U.S. lawmakers, there were 3 congresswomen who boycotted Modi's address to Congress, the address that he gave to the joint session. And 70 U.S. lawmakers also wrote an open letter asking Biden to address human rights. So this did come up.
All right, Leela. Thank you very much, Leela Jacinto from our international desk. Meanwhile, back in India, the country had the highest number of internet shutdowns in the world in 2022, topping the list for a 5th successive year. Often the government has been accused of restricting access in places like Kashmir due to political instability or violence, but internet cuts also occurred to prevent students from cheating on exams, leaving people with little to no access to some medical, educational, or financial services. Our team on the ground has more.
Since early May, the student from New Delhi is struggling to contact his relatives living in Manipur through social media.
Didn't answer.
For almost 2 months now, violent ethnic clashes have been taking place in his hometown northeast of the country. At least 100 people have lost their lives. In response, the authorities have cut off the internet to the region's 3 million inhabitants.
They started shutting down internet for 5 days, 10 days, a month. My family members, they also asked for the internet bill, their TV bills, their bank loans even. I have to pay them back.
India tops the list of countries that have shut down internet the most for the 5th consecutive year, according to Human Rights Watch. The government disconnected internet 84 times in 2022 in the name of maintaining law and order, a decision hitting the most vulnerable citizens, especially those living in the rural areas. Every day, Kamala uses a government application to mark the attendance of the workers, a mandatory step in order to be paid €3 a day. But the internet cuts results in them not receiving the payments.
If we don't have an internet connection, we can't register and we won't be paid. Sometimes we try to get on the mountain to connect our phone, but it doesn't work. Without the internet, where can we go? How can we feed our kids?
In India, many government welfare schemes have gone online, such as the distribution of food rations. For this NGO, these repeated internet blackouts are unjustified.
The significance of internet services in daily, everyday lives is not thoroughly appreciated by law enforcement agencies to the point where it should. All governments must publish widely the internet suspension orders that they issue.
Last year, internet outages cost the Indian economy nearly €2.5 billion and affected 10 million Indians.
In February, Hong Kong announced it was giving away 500,000 flights this year to boost tourism. Many places have struggled to lure visitors back to pre-pandemic levels. Taiwan saw just under 900,000 tourists last year compared to a record 11.8 million in 2019. And now, the island is offering tourists a chance to win €150. Yena Lee has more.
Taiwan has almost everything for almost everyone. Quiet nature reserves, big cities, and an abundance of street food. To encourage more tourists to discover the many facets of the archipelago, the government has set up a lucky draw at all the main air hubs, a chance to win a coupon worth €150. Many end up losing, but some hit the jackpot.
We are poor university students, so yeah, this is a great news.
I plan to use this one to take transport and buy some snacks for my colleague.
This year, 250,000 golden tickets are up for grabs. If they're all used, that'll add up to 37 million euros re-injected into the Taiwanese economy. For now, this Taipei hotel only cashed in around 1,000 euros of coupons in the past month. But after years without foreign guests, it's still a sign the situation is improving.
During the pandemic, it's kind of disaster for all hotels in Taiwan. So right now, we all need every penny, every extra of it. And thank you, government, for it.
While it's too early to measure the impact of the campaign, foreign visitors have already started to return. This tour guide says it's partly because Taiwan has been in the news so much lately.
The handling of the COVID crisis, and especially this potential crisis with Chinese threats, have put the spotlight on Taiwan. This attracts a lot of curiosity from Western visitors.
Taiwan has set a modest target of 6 million foreign visitors for 2023, far less than pre-pandemic levels of 11 million. The biggest target markets are South Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia, but conspicuously absent are mainland Chinese tourists, as Beijing and Taipei impose restrictions on cross-strait travel.
And finally, we look at some of the festivities during the Dragon Boat Festival in China. More than 50 rafts merged to create this majestic golden dragon spanning 550 meters. The traditional holiday, which occurs on the 5th day of the 5th month of the Chinese calendar. It serves as a tribute to the legendary poet Xu Yan, with celebrations encompassing vibrant dragon boat races and the enjoyment of traditional sticky rice dumplings. That's it for this edition of Access Asia. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned to France 24.